Hi guys, welcome to this video tutorial for tutorial 4 gameplay. We're going to do this tutorial in 2 videos, so this is going to be part 1. So in part 1 we're going to look at adding player movement restrictions. So at the moment, if we move our paddles, you can see that half of them actually go off the screen. So we don't want this, we want the paddles to stay within the window. So we're going to add some additional code to the code we already had to add this restriction to it. So let's get started. I'll just X out of here for now. And I'm going to double click on my object paddle. And we're working off our step event here and this piece of code that we were already working on. So if you double click on that, you'll see this piece of code we are working on. So we said if image underscore angle is equal to 90, we can control our paddles with our mouse on the y-axis, or else we can control it with the mouse on the x-axis. So we're talking about, in the first if statement, we're talking about the paddles on the left and the right, and in else we're talking about the paddles on the top and the bottom. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a special comment. So I'm going to add this very first line. So if we put / move paddle, this basically tells you what we're doing here, that we're moving our paddles. And this comment is not read by the compiler, so it's just for us to read. So if we add an additional comment here, or additional /, so we have 3 forward slashes, it will actually name this piece of code for us. So I'm just going to save that there for you now and just show you. So there you go. So it's changed. Instead of saying execute a piece of code, it says move paddle. So then we know that this is our move paddle code. So I'm just going to double click and go back into it. So what I need to do is I need to add 2 additional if statements to this piece of code to get our paddles, to stop our paddles from moving off the screen. So I'm just going to type it out quickly and then I am going to explain to you what each piece means. So just after this first curly bracket, we're going to add another if statement. If mouse underscore y is greater than sprite underscore width divided by 2, and mouse underscore y is less than room underscore height minus sprite underscore width divided by 2. And I'm going to press return, open my curly bracket here, and I am going to close my curly bracket here. So if this statement is true, do this. And if this statement is true, do all of this, essentially. So what this if statement is actually saying is, if the mouse y is greater than the sprite width divided by 2, so if mouse y is greater than sprite width divided by 2, so this keeps the paddle from going out of the top of the window. So the reason it says sprite width divided by 2 is it's talking about the origin of our sprite. So if you remember correctly, when we created our sprite paddle, I'm just going to go up and go into it here, we centered the origin of our sprite. We got this little cross so that the origin of the sprite is 32. So this is the center. So that's what it's talking about. So we're going to say, just click OK to get out there. Okay, so if this is greater than 32, so it stops it from going past 32 and going off the screen, and if mouse underscore y is less than room height, so it stops it from going from the bottom. So it has a double and here, which is just simply means and. So if basically the statement says if the y-axis, if the mouse is being controlled within the room, then you're allowed to control the mouse. Then the y variable is equal to where the mouse is. But if your mouse goes off the screen, the y variable won't be equal to that anymore because it's gone off the screen and it doesn't meet these restrictions that we've put. So I'm just going to save that, and I'm going to save that again, and I'm going to run it just to show you how this works. Okay, So the ball's gone off, but we're not going to worry about that. So now there you go. You see the left and the right paddle don't go out of the screen. So even though my mouse has gone off the screen, essentially my paddles aren't following it because it's not within the confinements that we have given it. So perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing except for these side paddles here. Okay, so I'll just X out of there. We're going to go back into our object paddle, back into our piece of code, and we're going to go to our else statement. So after this first curly bracket here, we're going to add an additional if statement, very similar to the one above, except instead of mouse Y, we're working with mouse X. Divided by 2. And mouse underscore X is less than room underscore width. Width minus sprite underscore width divided by 2. So room width and room height are variables that are already built into Gamemaker. So it knows by default what the room height and the room width is. So we're going to open this curly bracket and we're going to close this curly bracket. So if the mouse is within the room to the left and the right, then we're allowed to control our X variable of the paddle with our mouse. But if the mouse goes off the room, it's going to stop. It's not going to allow us to go any further. So tick to save that and tick OK. And again, run that and just to test it and see if it's working. Okay, perfect. So goes to the edge of the screen, but it doesn't go any further. And the same with the paddles at the top. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that concludes part 1 of this tutorial. In the second part, we're going to look at adding a grid of blocks and destroying them with our ball that is controlled by our paddles. So thanks very much for watching. Bye now.